some good points that I think you can take as a framework and use it in your interviews. As usual, we welcome your questions through our chat applet. So please start sending in your questions now, or at any point, you know, that you want to. I have a few participants with us that will not be able to stay with us throughout the meeting because I believe some of them have to travel to Chennai to tonight to attend their interviews tomorrow. So um, before I forget, good luck, all the best. I hope you do well with your interviews. I want to start off this web meeting uh, by giving you an overview of the student visa process and documentation. I'm going to have Rachna Chopra. Rachna is one of our student coordinators for Merrimack. I'm sure most of you have had the chance of talking to her, and because she's been involved in the process of talking to you and helping you with throughout the application process. We also have Sheldon Walbrown, who will also be sharing his experience with US IEF, that is United States India Education Foundation. He's got some great insights to share with you during this meeting. I've also invited George Rancourt. George Rancourt is he's worked with so many students in the past that he's got a good number of points that he can share around how you can beat stress and how you can feel a lot more confident going into these interviews. I've also had the opportunity of inviting one of the students that is going to attend Merrimack and just recently got his visa. His name is Siddhant Singhal. So he's going to share
Yeah,
his experience with everyone here. He's got some great points to share with you, and I hope you can take away something from his discussions. Okay, I will move on to the next part, and I want to invite Rachna to talk a little bit about the student visa process and documentation. This is something that most students don't get right, and I think with this piece of information that Rachna is going to share with you, you will be able to get your documentation right, and also understand why it is important for you to have the documentation in place before you go into these interviews. Okay, Rachna, you want to take it?
Thanks, Zach. Hello, everybody. This is Rachna here. Most of you I have interacted with earlier, and today we'll just try and quickly take you through the process, what we are talking about since last, I think, more than a month now. And then we'll be, looking at what is ready with you. Do you have questions regarding that? It will be a discussion which will be open, and as and when you have a query, kindly type the question there so that we can take it through. I would just want to first congratulate Siddhant on his visa. Hi Siddhant,
thank you
congratulations
so
on the
much.
visa. Yeah.
Thank you.
So yes, and once we are through with the documentation part, Siddhant will just take you through his experience, and then definitely Sheldon will help us out on what is it that U.S. High Commission looks at, So to start with, first thing first, anybody needs to do is go to ustraveldocs.com. This is the website which is required to be used to, make an application and, do the DS forms, fill in. How many of you have gone through the process already? I wouldn't be knowing because I know a couple of appointments are due for tomorrow, and they have completed the process. And in case you are going for an appointment, you need to have the DS forms filled in first. So once the device is received, and then once you have filled in the forms, you are having the appointments fixed in, you are ready to go for the visa interview. Now the question comes in, what one needs to take with themselves when you are appearing for a personal interview. So first thing first, there are three sections to take care of. As a student profile, what we need to know is what is your academic profile. Are you ready with your academic documents? So you need to have all your academic documents with you, starting from your year 10 certifications and your year 12 certifications, your year-wise marks for the graduation what you've completed, and your English scores, your GRE scores, your IELTS scores, whatever you have undertaken for English proficiency. Main document being your I-20, which you have to carry along with your passport, which is, having the stamp or the, barcode given at the OFC center. Your DS form and your passport needs to have that barcode. When you go to OFC, when your photographs are done, your fingerprinting is done, a barcode is, there's a sticker which comes on your passport and your DS forms. Until these stickers are in place, you are not allowed to get inside the consulate for interview. You're supposed to have, at least you're supposed to reach the consulate at least 1 hour prior to your appointment time, because there are other things, checking and all, which happens, which will take some time. Now, second thing being your financial profiling. So the sponsor, I mean, you can have single sponsor or multiple sponsor. The sponsor's affidavit is important, affidavit of support. The bank statements, which are, containing the current balances. Um, then you are supposed to have your education loan in case you have taken your education loan. The education loan sanction letter is required, and also any of your fixed deposits in case you are trying to show them. Now, one thing which one needs to keep in mind while you are trying to show the finances is, please let the finances be equal to or more than what you have shown to get your I-20. Now, we all know that for getting an I-20, we have got funds shown more than $43,159. So your total financial statement, actual finances available, that is your education loan plus financial statements, should exceed this amount. Second thing being, your amounts cannot be recent dump in the accounts, because they are not going to like the amounts coming into your account which don't have an explanation, and honestly you don't have time to explain, you just have about a minute there. So any recent funding is treated as the funds not being existent, because they are supposed to be the arranged funds. So if you are having the statements which are supposed to be arranged, I would suggest that you have to revisit your financial documentation and make sure that you have a sponsor where the funds are parked in for at least 60 days. So, sorry, there's a student on. Yes, Sashi? Yes. Okay. Fine, Sashi. Yeah. You just send me your email ID. Yeah. Fine. Yeah. Sorry for that. There's a student who's trying to log in. He's not able to do that. Um, and the financial statements, the primary funds which are accepted are the funds lying in the savings bank, the funds lying in the fixed deposits, and the funds which are through the education loan. So anybody who's trying to take a demand loan or a gold loan is not an acceptable fund. It is called a secondary funding, and any statement containing secondary funding can be refused. Now, second important aspect is the income returns of the sponsor. So please make sure that you have 2 years income tax returns available with you, and it is advisable that the income tax returns should be a little bit more than 8 lakhs per annum. Because it is directly, they're trying to see how a student is going to manage the funds in case they're going to take an education loan. So it's very, very important that the financial statements are revisited more than once, and have a discussion with your counselor, have a discussion with us in case you have a question. but try and make sure that all the financial statements are straightforward. Second and important aspect is you'll have things which are in the form of bonds, any financial statements in the form of bonds, LIC surrender values, or any other such or PF withdrawable amounts are all secondary funding. So if you have those funds as primary funds, then you may have to think about it again because it is not considered as primary funding. And the sponsors can be anybody as long as they have reason to sponsor. One needn't worry about who can be the sponsor. And if you have a CA and CE statement, that's fine, but in case you don't, there's no hassle. The main documents which High Commission wishes to look at is your main I-20, your passport, valid passport, and they're trying to look at these are the two main documents they see, and then they're going to ask who's your sponsor, what's the income level, and if they have a question, then they're going to ask for a financial statement. Otherwise they are not even going to ask you for a financial statement. The idea is you are going with these documents what we are discussing right now to be prepared in case they ask for it. But in any of the videos or any of the presentations given by the US High Commission, they are simply asking for an honest application, and because it's a non-immigrant visa, they are wanting to know in case the student is a non-immigrant at the first place. So what they are trying to ask in here is just how honest you are in your presentation. Do you know which college you're going to go, what course you're going to take, what is it that you wish to do post-course completion? These are the major questions which they're trying to see and judge your genuinity as a student. So all this happens within a minute. So if at all you know the profiling, if you have a question on the location, if you have a question on any other issues, you need to clarify with us right away so that you are not confused as to what replies you're supposed to give when you reach there. So apart from the documentation of financial documentation and the documentation of your academics, we would also further advise in case you have taken an education loan and you have pledged property as a, kindly carry the Xerox of that with you, because at times you may have to show the proof of that to see that this property genuinely belongs to you or the sponsor. So at times, a friend or a family friend or somebody known to you gives the property as a collateral. In that case, in case they're not sponsoring anything, but they have just acted as a security provider for your loan, please remember that carry their affidavit of support and the reason why they're supporting along with it, because they would want to know why a third party is sponsoring you or pledging his property to get a loan for you. So that affidavit should clearly mention as to why he is going to sponsor if he is a third party, not a family member. So these are the small things in principle we need to remember. But other than that, the consulate is not wishing to see many documents because honestly they don't have time for that. So all they want is an honest applicant with a clear intention of going to study and making his career well, and they are wanting the funds to be not arranged but available. Okay, so I would request in case you have any questions right now, if you can type the questions, I can take the questions in, and then probably we can go to the next round as to how the experiences were to share that.
Sure. Thanks, Rachna. Rachna, because we are talking a little bit about documentation and the financial aspect of getting things right. Now, one question that I have is there any difference with showing documentation was which shows more like fixed assets, like fixed deposits or property versus liquid cash? Does that make any difference?
Honestly, they are looking at the funds available, that is the liquid cash. Yes, properties do help them explain that they do have a reason to come back, But in principle, liquid funding is what they're concentrating on.
Right, right, okay, okay. So I think that's a good point. I think all our attendees should really keep that in mind and have their documents set as per whatever Rachna shared with us. So those are good points, Rachna. Thank you. So how would you summarize the whole documentation part? So what are the 3 or 4 key documents that they will have to carry?
Yes, its first primary document is the passport and the I-20.
Yeah.
That is the first document that you have to go give it to the visa officer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other documentations which are primary would be the academic documents and then the financial statement, and third is the sponsorship letters.
Okay,
So
good.
in that order it goes. So these are the main things. So all documents are arranged in that very order to make sure that as and when the officer asks, they can just immediately be pulled out of the file and given to the officer.
Okay, good. So that's good. I also want to let our attendees know that each section that we are discussing, at the end of the webinar, we'll also send you quick reference links where you will have access to some of the videos that are out there online. Talks a little bit about what is the process like. What can you expect from the time you're at the consulate gates, and how do you get to the point where you are actually meeting the interviewing officer there. So we will share those links with you, and we'll also share a checklist where you can just follow the checklist and have your documentation ready and be prepared for the interview. What I would want to do at this point is I would want to invite Siddhant Singhal, who just got his visa for Merrimack. I want to invite him and ask him to share his experience at the consulate. Siddhant? Siddhant?
Right. Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, Siddhant, go ahead.
Right. Hi, everyone. So I'm going to share my experience about getting my F1 visa at the Delhi US Embassy. Now, first thing that I would definitely advise is that you must reach at least an hour prior to your interview schedule time, because what happens is that even though on the instruction slip it is written that you cannot carry any specific electronic goods, but you can still pay rupees 50 at a particular line and you can have your mobile deposited. So that's the first step. Then after that I noticed that many students were actually told to go back because about 2 years back people were supposed to pay their service fee inside the embassy itself. But it's only been a recent concept that you pay your service fee online. So without the receipt, they're actually not allowing students to enter the US Embassy. So when you submitted your DS form 160 online, so there must have been a confirmation email saying that you have submitted your application. So that particular document, confirmation of the DS 160 form, and then your service fee receipt, that one. Also the receipt of paying your DS form 160 either at the Axis Bank or any other branch. These are very important. So they're going to attach your I-20 and your service receipt into your passport and fold it. So that becomes your document to actually enter the US Embassy finally. So keep it in mind that you have your service fee receipt. Now even when you enter the US Embassy, you'll find that there are lots and lots of people. And you do kind of, at one point of time, you see that there are 24 counters and you can actually hear sometimes that, the conversation going on between the people and the officers at the other side of the window. So I will be very brutally honest with this one. I, in fact, never saw people carrying those bulk folders, including me. I never saw anyone even actually opening up their folders. The point is that they are, sitting there to give you a visa. So if you're genuine, if you can present your intent well, they're not supposed to deny you. I mean, after all, you're going to take dollars to their economy. So it's not supposed to be that difficult. Now the thing is that they will definitely ask you that where have you applied to, why did you apply to this college and why not the other colleges where you got admit from. In case you are applying through a educational consultant, please do not mention that. You can always say that you know certain seniors or you were convinced by that particular syllabus of this college, you were very happy with the course. Do make sure that you know all the subjects of your course, because that's your that's the point that you're going to say that I'm very happy with the curriculum of this course, henceforth I chose this college, and I was recommended this college by certain seniors. This is the best answer that you can give. And also, I never showed any financial document. Like, I was never even asked. Neither was anyone around me. So this is what happened. Also, yeah, they will ask you definitely the income of your father. If your mother is earning, do tell the income of your mother. Also, if you have any grandfather who is a government employee, you can mention their hefty income that they're getting as well. Because all of that adds up to presenting a situation that yes, you have got immediate funds. Because honestly, until they are suspecting something, they won't really ask you for the documents, but this is just me and what I observed around me. So anything that I carried right from LOR, SOP, it seemed like all of that played part only for getting your admit from the college. So it seems like when you get your I-20, it means like you've got admitted, therefore you have shown your potential to, go to the States. So right now it's all about presenting yourself with absolute confidence and taking them in confidence that you have the funds with you. But for the most part, what I saw that they were hardly even asking for funds. Plus, it seemed like most of the rejections that were taking place were for the tourist visa. For the F1 visa, the chance is definitely higher. Like, this is what I saw. Since I could hear and I was very observant with the conversations taking place around me. So your service fee is really important. Of course, your I-20, your passport, your DS-160 confirmation receipt, and also the fees of DS-160 that you paid at the Axis Bank. So these are very important documents. I was never asked to show even my TOEFL score, apparently, because we had to mention your either IELTS or the TOEFL in the DS-160, I think so. So maybe they don't need it, neither do they have the time to cross-check. So if it so happens that your father's income is already 10 to 17 lakhs, then I don't think they even want to confirm. And if you have your mother working as well, anyone else in your family getting some money, any rental income as well, then for the most part, they're pretty much satisfied that yes, I mean, it wouldn't be like you enter the States and you don't have money for your living expenses and your tuition. Like, that's just what they want to ensure.
Okay.
So this was my whole experience. It lasted for about 3.5 minutes, and that was it. Do greet the officer when you go, whenever your chance comes up.
Yeah. All right. Good. Thanks, Siddhant.
Yes.
How was the whole environment in the office there?
It was like for me it was quite tense. Like, I was just imagining that what would happen, but I knew that I could do it the moment I saw what was happening to other people. I knew that yeah, I had the funds and everything, so yeah, there was absolutely no problem.
Well, the reason I asked you
I
that,
mean,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
right. No, it's okay. Please ask.
Yeah. So the reason I asked you that is because there's this whole hype created around, interviews, how stressed, we've seen so many students being stressed about this whole thing of going to the consulate for an interview and
Right.
being interviewed by, uh, an officer, an American officer there. So
Right.
there's a lot of stress around it. There's a lot of pressure on students like you folks. Um, so,
Right.
so I wanted that to come out from you, and so that you can share it with the other students, and they know what's coming.
Right. Of course.
They be better prepared for it.
Right.
Now, since we are talking
Right.
a little bit about stress, we're talking about
Right.
presenting yourself. I want to bring in George
Right.
Bancourt. He doesn't have too much time with us today, but I want to bring him in now and have him share a few points on how you folks or our attendees today can display confidence or try beat stress. That stress that you're going to carry in at the consulate. It's important that you brush that off and then go in. So I think because of the experience that George has working with students both in India and in other countries, I think he's got some very good points to share with you, and I will ask George to jump in now.
Thanks, Zach. Good morning, everyone. Well, it's morning for me, evening for you. I'm George. I'm here in Boston. So I'm the guy that you'll meet once you come over to the U.S., and I'll help you get situated and set up over here. Listening in, as Rachna pointed out, I think she made some really good points about the honesty. you have to understand that before you go into the consulate, they've already done some preliminary work on you to, one, just make sure that, you know, you're a legitimate candidate and things of that nature. But usually when you're honest, then you don't have to worry about what you said. And oftentimes when you do these kind of interviews, you try to tell them what they want to hear. These people are professional interviewers. So I'll give you some tips on what can help you, because I know it's some of the things that they look for. Probably the number one thing, so just to go back and reinforce that, is just be honest with them and say, look, I'm trying to better my life. My uncle went to the U.S. He had a good success. He came back to India. Now he's a managing director for so-and-so. Don't try to tell them what they want to hear, because that gets old. If you picture yourself how many people they interview day in and day out, you know, they're so sick of people just telling them everything they want to hear. So I think Rachna's advice there, being honest, is good. The reason why I say that, because I'm going to talk about the confidence and how to relieve a little bit of that stress. Although the stress part is questionable, because we all go through those stressful kind of moments. So the first thing I would tell you is, when you go in, eye contact is extremely important. If you study any kind of behavioral things, as I have in the past, the biggest thing professional interviews do is they look at your eyes, because your eyes, they can tell if you're lying, they can tell if you're not lying. It's still, I'm not going to go into all of that, but it's just when you answer them or when they're talking to you, look them in the eye. That projects confidence. Even though your stomach may be swimming and, you know, all kinds of nerves are there, eye contact becomes very important. If you answer a question and you're not looking at them, then they're going to have some doubts. So the number one thing is eye contact. Second thing is, don't be fidgety in your seat, because they often look, you can be nervous and you can tell them, say, hey, look, I'm nervous, you know, and it's okay. Again, that's being honest. They would expect you to be there. So sometimes the way you calm your nerves is just by saying, wow, this is a really, you know, stressful experience, or just say, I can't believe how nervous I am, you know, because remember, you guys have worked hard your whole life. This is your right and your opportunity. So don't be afraid. Build that confidence up. The U.S. wants more Indians here. Even this, you know, crazy presidential guy Trump is even talking about the benefit of bringing more Indians over here to help us with science and technology, and even in the medical community. So India's in a good place right now. So let me help calm those nerves. India has just been upgraded to VIP status with the U.S. So what that means is, eventually India is moving in the direction where visas and everything will be easier. So I think that's a plus for you guys right now, because internally they're all talking about it. So this is a pretty big step that Modi was able to accomplish with his visit to the U.S. So let that help you, that they're probably being told, let more Indian students come in, because students have the top percentage of visas issued. So I want you to understand that too. When the consulate looks and Hyderabad has X amount of visas that they're allowed, students get that first. Then it goes to the corporate. So there's some carved out for corporate, but in recent years there's been an increase with visas. So I just also want you to know that you also get to, you know, kind of get a better attention, if you will, there. So those are the things that I think are most important. I don't want to tell you too many things, because then you'll be trying to remember too much. Be yourself. You have a lot to be proud of. You've reached a point, you know, where you've been accepted into the college. So don't forget that, you know, carry that with you, and that'll serve you well. So that's what I would say, and as you know, I forget the students that I'll just call you Sid. As Sid said, you know the curriculum, know what you're doing. You're about to spend some good money coming here, and it's all going to pay off for you, there's no doubt. But know exactly what you're getting into, because that's all they want to do, is they want to say, hey, is this student, you know, too dependent on their parents? Do they know what they're doing? Do they know how much it costs? All of those questions that they're going to cover and help you with will be there. But just remember, you know, build your confidence that way. You're in a spot that how many people even get a visa interview, and the fact that you have a visa interview, you know, A, be proud. Secondly, carry that. You know, that's an accomplishment. So you have a lot. You have, as somebody said, you have a right to be there. You've earned that right. So carry that forward, and that will also serve you well. Remember, Americans view things differently, and that's going to be a whole different experience that you're going to find when you come here. Is we like you to be independent. We want you to say, yes, I know what I'm doing, I know what I'm studying, I know where I'm going. And probably the biggest thing that's there, now when I was living in India, I met many consulates there who were expats that I became friendly with, and the number one thing they are concerned about is how are you coming back to India? What's the return trip back? So everything you talk about, I know that a lot of you want to stay in the U.S. and get a job, but make it seem like you need to come back. Anything that has to be there. My auntie works at Microsoft, and she said if I get this degree, she might be able to help me get into a good position. So again, I know Sheldon will cover some of those areas, but their biggest concern is that you have the attitude that you're returning back to India, and the value of what the U.S. degree can do for you in India, they already know that. So that's kind of the piece they want to hear on that end. They don't want to hear that, oh, I really want to get a job and stay in the U.S. and get a green card and all of that. So don't even go down there. Talk about how good it will be for you when you come back to India, and talk about your parents. So again, I'll wrap it at that. And Zach, I don't know if you want to let anyone ask questions now, or if I can jump on the blog as well.
Well, that's okay, George. I think we have a few more things to discuss, but the idea of bringing you in was to share your experience working with students that usually um, attend interviews and just infuse a little confidence into them. That was the whole point. Anyways,
Sure.
thank you, George. What I want to do now is I am getting a few questions from um, some of our attendees here, which I will ask our speakers later. But at this point, I quickly want to share a few points from my research, that I've been doing the last few weeks. The two key things I think, I would want our attendees to really know and understand is that there are two key things that an interviewing officer is basically looking at. The one is, if the student that's there for the interview, that's attending the interview, is qualified to go to a US college. That's number one. And there are different reasons for them to look at this. One is they're also concerned about you, if you'll be able to get through the program that you opted for. One of the reasons why they usually like to see your academic scores. Now, when I talk about academic scores are not the consolidated sheet that you will have to show. It's always a good practice for you to take your individual sheets with you, because that way they can really look at your year-on-year performance in your undergraduation. So for example, if a student hasn't really done great in their intermediate and done average with their undergraduate, that kind of raises a red flag there, saying that the student really hasn't done great with undergraduation and intermediate. So how is he going to really pull this off in the US? So they want to make the right decision, not just for themselves, but also help you make the right decision. So it might not be uh, the case where you did something wrong or they did something wrong. So they are always looking at, they're trying to study these students that are coming for interviews, and they're trying to see what's best for them. They're basically helping them make the right decision there. Okay. And the second point, I think what you will also have to keep in mind, which Siddhant and Rachna shared with you, is they want to see a credible financial plan from the students that are attending the interviews. When I say credible financial plan, all they want to see is, will you be able to finance your program or your master's degree? How will you fund your education in the US? So whatever you can show or whatever you can have on file with you, just to support the other documents that are needed, those are good things to keep with you. Okay, so that's me from what I've learned from the research that I've done. I want to bring Sheldon in. Sheldon has some great insights to share with you. He's recently had the opportunity to meet some of the officials at USIEF, that's the US India Education Foundation, and they've shared their views with him, which I think he wants to share with you now. Sheldon?
Thanks, Zach. I think most everything has been discussed already. All the major points for a successful interview have already been discussed, but I kind of want to wrap it up into a couple of, or summarize it into a couple of different things that USIEF was saying, and a few things that I've seen from interviews that students have undergone so far. The first point is just to reiterate that the Council of Reps usually meets about 100 people per day. And the average interview is about 2 or 3 minutes. We've had successful interviews that have been 30 seconds. We've had 30-second interviews that haven't been successful. Okay, so the main point that I would say for any good interview is that you need to keep it short. The interview is short, so you might as well go with the flow. So you need to be very quick, you need to be very polite, you need to be very concise. Now there are 3 areas, and again this has already been discussed in one manner or another already, that they are going to ask you about. The first question is, why Merrimack? And I see this is a question that was already brought up in the chat, the general chat for this group. The answer is going to be different for different programs at Merrimack. Okay. Overall, the answer is going to be that Merrimack is got a great ranking in the Northeast, that it's got 100% placement, that it's got a 13-to-1 student-teacher ratio, that it's got a lot of great resources. And you need to memorize 3 or 4 points that you may think make the strongest case for you. For the students that are in the Master of Management program, the first thing you should say is it's got the 15th ranked Masters in Management in the country. When they ask you how many other schools you applied to, it's a very quick answer. If you've applied to a lot of schools, you say, I've applied to 5 or 6. Merrimack was the best. If you've only applied to 1 or 2, you tell them Merrimack was the school that I've very much wanted to go to, that I've always wanted to go to, and you give them again the reasons why you want to go to Merrimack. There's no story to present, just quick facts. When they ask you, if they even ask you about GREs, several students have asked about this, you give, again, a very answer. No GREs are required because I had to go through a very detailed interview process. All right, you tell them, you can give them my name, doesn't matter. You can say that you had to go through a very detailed interview process, and that's why the GREs are now required for Merrimack. Okay. The next question is, how are you paying for this? Again, Rachna threw a number of details as to what documentation you need. What I would like to add to that is that you need to make sure that you could pull the documents that they might ask for out of your pile of paperwork without looking. It needs to be well organized. If it takes you 2 minutes to pull out a financial document from your stack of documents, they're probably going to give you a rejection slip, okay? So you need to know where everything is in the stack of paperwork, especially the financial documentation. When they ask you how you're going to pay, the first thing you need to give them is the overall number, how much money you got for tuition and how you're going to cover your living expenses. Please do not tell them that you're going to cover your living expenses from the 20 hours you can work under your I-20 at Merrimack. You need to be able to tell them that you are going to be able to cover your living expenses based on savings or fixed deposits or the financial loan that you have in front of you. Now, most of you who are getting student loans that I have talked to are getting a 20 lakh student loan. So an example of how you would respond, how you're going to pay for Merrimack, is to say, I have a 20 lakh student loan that I will use to cover my tuition at Merrimack. In addition to that, I have fixed deposits and or personal or family savings that will cover, that equal to or above 7 lakhs, that will cover all of my personal expenses while I'm at Merrimack. That's how quick the statement should be. That way, if they ask you for the documents, you can hand them over. Okay? That's how quick the answer should be. It should not take more than 5 or 6 seconds. If they want to know more, like where your income is coming from, you need to be able to say overall what the number is. And then if they ask you for details, then you can provide the details. One example that I like to give students of a student who did not present this properly was a student whose overall family income was 24 lakhs, which is good. But when they presented the details to the embassy rep, what they said was, my father's income is 2 lakhs annually. So instead of going into what the mother's income was or the rental income was or what the family's fixed assets were, they started with that. As soon as they said my father's income is 2 lakhs, they got the rejection slip. So you need to start with the overall amount of money that you have. You need to be very clear, and then if they ask you for additional details, then you give them. Now, an additional side note that I've learned from USCF is that they are doing follow-ups on the financials. There was also a recent press clipping from the U.S. ambassador to India that said that what they're really looking at now is the financials that the students have. So they are not just looking at the letter that you're stating from the local branch office stating that there's a student loan, but they are actually calling up the main office and seeing if there is a loan. Now, Siddhant mentioned earlier that he went through a very quick process and they didn't ask him for any of the paperwork. That is true. That is what a lot of students are facing. But rest assured, they will look at the back end of your paperwork to make sure all of it is legitimate. So please make sure that all loan paperwork, if you have a little bit of time, please make sure all of that loan information is registered with the central office and not just with the bank manager, the local branch manager. All right. The third question. Is on what you are going to do after you graduate from Merrimack. Now, rest assured, 50% of you on this call right now told me in your interview that you want a good job at a multinational making a good salary. I know if the microphone wasn't muted, half of you would be laughing right now, okay? You have to have a better answer than this, all right? You have to tell them what you want to do with your degree. Spending 17 lakhs on an education and then not knowing what you want to do with it is a problem. I guarantee you, any of you that have bought motorcycles or scooties know exactly why you bought that scooty, why you bought it from the place that you bought it, what your EMI is, and every other detail about that bike. They expect you to know what you're going to do with your degree. So if they ask you, what are you going to do after Merrimack, you need to say, I want to pursue a career in X, Y, Z. I want to specialize in this area at Merrimack and do this when I graduate. Now, as far as staying in the United States, you do have the option of OPT. This is part of your visa. So if you want to say that you want to stay in the United States and take advantage of your OPT, no one is going to blink at you saying this, okay? All of the consulate reps know that one of the goals of many Indian students is to remain in the United States. As we've all said, be honest. So if you say you want to take advantage of the OPT, that you want to gain further experience and look at opportunities both in the United States and India, you can't say that, all right? You can say that as long as you're being honest about what you want to pursue. What they will hold against you is if you just say, I just want to do whatever with my degree after I graduate. The reason being is that they will think that you are not a bona fide student, that you are not a genuine student, okay? And that, again, goes back to that point about being honest. They've seen thousands upon thousands upon thousands of students. So you really need to be honest about what you want to do. You have to do research. As was mentioned earlier, knowing the classes that you want to take about Merrimack, not just the rankings, is very helpful. They want to know that you're a bona fide student. You want to go to Merrimack, that you want to improve your educational skills and your educational opportunities and your career opportunities. So that is what they need you to prove to them. Okay? So just to wrap all of that up, you need to have clear, quick answers. You need to make sure that those answers are consistent. You need to make sure that those answers are quick. And if the consulars have any follow-up, they will ask you those questions. That's it from my side, Zach.
Right, Sheldon, thanks. I think you covered quite a bit of some of the questions that our attendees were asking in the chat. But I also have a few questions coming in around financial, which I'll have to switch to Rachna to answer some of those questions. But I again want to summarize whatever Sheldon has said and add a few things there. There are many ways of asking a question, okay, and I'm sure our attendees understand that. But in order for you to get your answers right, my suggestion is you listen to them properly. You listen and understand what are they really trying to ask you. Like I said, there are many ways of asking one question, and one question that you will probably see on your screen is how much money do you have? The last 4 questions that I have is basically for students that have already got their visa and are traveling to the US. But please keep this in mind that having your visa is not the final step. Having a US visa allows you to enter the US till the port of entry. They may or may not be a second inspection at the immigration counter at the US. And some of the most common questions they ask you at the port of entry are the 4 questions that you see on the screen, the 7th one. Again, it goes back to doing your research and being well prepared with answers on the college you're attending, the course you're taking, what are you doing, what are you going to do with that course, and how is the whole investment that you're making in terms of time and money going to really give you the returns. I think if you are able to come up with precise, short, crisp answers to these questions, then I don't think you have to worry about anything else. Um, you know, I also know that some of our attendees here are attending this webinar hoping to get some answers to the most frequently asked questions by an interviewing officer at the consulate. There is no right answer as such for all of the questions. There is a framework that we can give you, and we hope that you can take this framework and work around building some answers. Now, the whole point of this is not for you to sound like you've practiced the answers beforehand and go give them the same answers. Please keep in mind this. There was a point made by George. There was a point made by Sheldon as well. These are thorough professionals. They've been trained to read behaviors. Okay, so they know if you're saying whatever you're saying, if it's the right thing or the wrong one. So do not just do it like the way you've been doing it at the colleges here. Where you mug up all your answers and then go there. Um, Try to be a little spontaneous. I know it's going to be a little stressful. You're going to feel the pressure there, but like George and Sheldon said, and even Rachna said, be honest. Tell them that you're a little nervous, and they get it. They will understand that. Okay. Um, I want to stop here, and I want to switch to the questions that some of our attendees have, and I would want Rachna to answer this question. One of the questions that we had from one of our attendees here, his question is, his grandfather is funding the program, the tuition, and which includes fixed deposits and gold. Okay. He also has affidavits for it, and he wants to know if that will be accepted by the consulate if they review their documents, his documents.
Yeah, in fact, fixed deposits, Zach, are a very good source which they treat it as primary funds. Now, gold, incidentally, is considered as a liquid fund only if it is converting itself into a gold loan or, what would, I mean, you need to have the gold in the movable property or the properties, but it may not have a direct impact in case it is just shown as gold. If you are taking a gold loan, that loan against gold might be considered as primary funds, but otherwise fixed deposits are only considered as primary funds. Gold is only an asset which may not be considered as primary fund if it is not translating into cash in the bank.
Yeah. Okay, and Sheldon, this again, this seems to be one of the most common questions that I'm getting directly is, how can I tell that, tell the officer if, why I've chosen Merrimack? I know you've given us an answer, but I think a lot of our management students are asking this. So would you be okay with giving them a sample answer for it?
Sure. Again, and I think management, because of the recent ranking, is the easiest one to describe. But I would say the quickest and easiest answer for management is that I've looked at a number of programs, including MBAs. And if you look at my background and my experience, a master's in management is a perfect fit for me. Merrimack has the 15th ranked Masters in Management in the United States of America. It is an excellent program and includes classes like leadership development or financial analytics, just to list a couple of classes that I find are the best on the list. And this class is an excellent fit because based on my background, I want to pursue a career in, I don't know, management in financial environments or whatever the case may be. So it's very quick. It's very much to the point. If they ask you, why didn't you apply to other schools or why aren't there more schools on your list, you need to very clearly say with confidence, this is the 15th ranked Masters in Management in the United States of America. This is an excellent program. I really didn't need to look at other options because this is a very well-regarded program with 100% placement.
Great. I think the answers are all out there on the website. I think our students have to, or our attendees have to take some time out to research if they haven't. The answers are out there. It just, you just have to take some time out and go through all that information that's available. We've always encouraged our students to go out there because there's tons of information for everyone, not just for the interviews, but general information about curriculum, why it's a great destination for you to do your masters. This basically reminds me of the previous webinar we had done with one of our students that's doing his mechanical engineering at Merrimack. He was asked this question about why did he choose Merrimack and why did he choose US as a destination for his masters. And very interesting answer that he came up with was, one is he wanted international exposure, and he learned that Merrimack did not have many international students. So he thought it was the right time or the right place to be at, because he could be part of a class where Merrimack boasts of 1:13, okay, one professor for every 13 students. So he really wanted to be in a class where he didn't have colleagues from India with him in the class, so he could learn from the local students from the US and other international students about their culture, maybe work with them in teams and learn more. So he thought that's going to be a great experience for him, not being with other Indians, and because he's already spent a good 20 years, learning with students from India or his friends around him. So he thought that's a good answer, and they kind of liked the answer because he actually shared with us the expression the officer had. So maybe you want to take that as a sample answer and use that. I have
Also, Zach, if I can add in there on what Swati just pushed in there, Swati was saying about how she comes from an EE background, but that she's shifting to management. Swati, that's a good one to be adding about in the Indian context. But in the United States, it's actually considered a huge plus, a big advantage to say that you've studied one area and now you want to go on to study another area because of the advantages it will afford you. Okay, where Americans like, having sort of cross-pollination between areas and disciplines. So for you to say that, I come from an EE background, but I'm doing management because I really wanted to hone my management skills, that I have the technical capabilities, but I want to make sure that I have the management skills because it will help my career, put me on a great trajectory for my career that will allow me to, pursue my management goals as I develop. You can even throw in something like, this has been something that my mentors have suggested, that I was an excellent management candidate now that I have, my specifics in EE. This is a very common answer for people that are in the United States and something that consular representatives would not have a problem with at all. They won't question it at all.
Great. Well, and my next question, Sheldon, is again for you, and it's the last question that I'm going to take. Um, it's a question that I'm getting from Dikshit, and I think Dikshit has also asked this question before, but he says that this is one of the most common questions asked, which I'm not too sure if that's true. But I would want I would want you to really share the same answer that you've always given us about what's the difference between a college and a university in the US? Why are you going to a college instead of a university? So I know you've answered that question like a zillion times, but let's put this to an end.
Sure, sure. Yeah, you're not going to get this question from an embassy rep, but I'll answer it for you just so you have that peace of mind in case for some strange, weird, bizarre reason they ask you. Colleges, there's no difference between a college and a university in the United States. If you look at any rankings in the United States of America, you will find colleges in those top rankings because the government does not decide academic standards. It is the accreditation bodies and the individual schools that do that. If there is any difference between a college and a university, it is usually to do with the scale and size of the institution. When it comes to Merrimack, the answer that you could give to a consulate member is that Merrimack is a strong academic unity. With only 3,400 students, they will be able to provide me the kind of focus that I, as an international student, need to be successful in the American education system. If you want to put it in even simpler terms, if you're nervous, you can say, because it's a college, it has a lot of faculty that will be able to help me and make sure I'm a success in the U.S. education system.
Dikshit, I hope that answers your question. So that's all I have from, those are the questions I have from the attendees. So just to wrap this up, I know some of you from our attendees have your interview scheduled for later this week and next week. So we wish you luck. We hope you do well and get your visas. But again, like I said, it's not your final step. Your final step is once you enter US. If you have a second inspection, these are the same questions you might be asked. So don't just forget your answers that quickly. So, we store them. So you might have to, give the same answers at the port of entry during your visit to the US. So, I mean, that's a little bit we put together to help you folks. I hope, some of the answers that we provided you with and all the information that we gave you will help you. And we hope to see you all at Merrimack. And we hope that you will all be a part of the pre-orientation that we are coming up in the 3rd week of July, where you will get to meet other students that are attending Merrimack, and also bring in your parents to see what the college is like, and who are some of the other people that are attending there. So thank you again. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Rachna, Sheldon, and Siddhant. You guys did great, and thanks for sharing all that info with us. Good night.
Good night. Take care, Zach. Thank you for sponsoring the event. Appreciate it.
Yep.